Welcome in, everyone, for the CoreAlign in service. Hello. Joy, you can say something. They can see you and hear you.
Hi guys, welcome to the CoreAlign in service. We're just letting people in, so it'll take a second before we get started.
Yes, we're so excited to have you here today for the first CoreAlign in service with Joy Puleo, the one and only. It's going to be a fantastic hour with the energy of joy and this wonderful product from Balanced Body, the CoreAlign. Hope you guys are ready for a little workout and some great information.
All right, thank you, Portia. Thank you. Hey, I want to welcome all of you guys. I was driving in this morning and I was thinking how odd this was for Portia, Nora, and myself. We're used to greeting all of you with big warm hugs, smiles, and welcomes, and we get to hear all of your stories. And now I guess basically you get to hear my story for an hour. So there you go. But we want to welcome you to the CoreAlign in service. One of the things we've been wanting to do here at Balanced Body for a long time is find ways of introducing people to the equipment that they've either purchased or that they're thinking of purchasing. And the CoreAlign is such a unique piece of equipment, and it's really worthy of taking the time to step back, to remember the things about it for those of you who already have it, the things about it that we love. For those of you who bought it and stood back and looked at it and thought, I have no idea what to do with this, to give you some ideas, and just to refresh the CoreAligns in your mind. So first, what I want to do is I want to tell you what brought me to the CoreAlign. And it's funny, I realize that many of you actually know a lot of my stories, because for those of you who know me, know that I am not want of a story to tell. But what I tend not to do is tell my own personal story. But my own personal story is part of what brought me to this CoreAlign over here. In my 20s, pretty much everything I did existed around the concept of not throwing my back out. And I think I ranged anywhere between 240 and 285 pounds, depending on what I was willing to cop to at that day. And that was really an interesting time for me, because here I was in really the prime of my life and probably the most interesting ever. And as a result of that, I realized how much I was coddling myself and how much I didn't do for fear of hurting myself. Now think about that in your 20s, how much you don't do for fear of hurting yourself. So here I am at 54, far more active than I was at 24. And a large part of what gave me the confidence to be more active was taking steady steps toward finding my own strength and understanding what I needed to work on for myself. And it helps me when I'm working with clients, because I'm always looking at a client, not from the perspective of, how can I get this person to run a triathlon, in record time, but actually, how do I get this person one step better from where they were today when they came in? What are those progressions? What are those skills that they need to be more confident in their physical being? So now I find Pilates. I'm working with a physical therapist and we're using it as our post-rehab. And we're realizing we want to get people upright. And I go to a Pilates on tour in Boston. And by the way, I'm going to confess it was before the latter. So this was a leap of faith. And I see this CoreAlign. And immediately I have two reactions. One, this will be great for my clients. And two, wow, this is going to be great for me. So that's what started me on my CoreAlign journey. I want you to know that my CoreAlign journey has informed my Pilates practice. Many of the things that we do on the CoreAlign, if I don't have a CoreAlign available, I bring to the reformer. And many of the elements of the reformer, I bring to the CoreAlign. So these things go hand in hand. Now, Portia is on the back end of this, graciously taking the chat. Please put your comments into the chat, say hello, tell us where you're from. We love to know where you're from and what brought you here. Let me ask you a couple of questions. One, tell us if you're a trainer. Tell us if you're a physical therapist. Tell us how you plan to use the CoreAlign, because these will help us to shape these in-services, and really, as much as it's a virtual world and hard to be personal, help us to personalize them to your needs. Okay?
Joy, I'm going to interrupt for one moment. If everyone can please remember to mute yourselves so that we don't hear your background noise, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Portia.
And by the way, Joy is loud enough for all of us, so.
Yeah, now listen, I am using an external mic because I find that if I wear the thing that's on me, I can blow out your sound system. So I have an external mic, but you may want to turn up the volume on your computer. That might help a little bit. And certainly communicate to Portia if you do have trouble hearing me, or if you want clarification on anything. So now let's take you to your CoreAlign, shall we? So I'm going to come back here. I am in the Balanced Body studio, and we have set this up so that we can give you a nice, just straight on view of the CoreAlign. The first thing I want you to know, which is going to seem like a silly thing, is when you buy the CoreAlign, or if you say, I want a CoreAlign, what you're actually going to get is this rectangular shape that's right now sitting inside of what we call a freestanding ladder. And the reason why I say that is when you go to look to buy your CoreAlign, make sure you're looking at a CoreAlign and its companion ladder if you don't have a ladder. So in this instance, the CoreAlign is sitting inside a freestanding ladder, which means it takes up this amount of space. It's roughly the same amount of space that a reformer would take up. Now you have another option for a ladder. You can buy simply the ladder itself that can stand up against a wall. Now there are benefits to both. The freestanding CoreAlign, the freestanding ladder and the CoreAlign can be anywhere in a room. The wall-mounted ladder must be mounted obviously to a wall, which means, remember, we're in commercial spaces. You've got to have something to mount it into. It can be up against a wall, but the good thing about a wall-mounted ladder is you literally can take your CoreAlign and either put it up against the wall and lock it into place, or move it out of the way and reclaim your floor space. So the CoreAlign doesn't have to take floor space away from your facility if you have a wall that you can mount it to, or the CoreAlign can stand anywhere inside of your facility. It is important to have a ladder. The ladder becomes a stationary base upon which many of these exercises are going to flourish off of. So that's a bit about the ladder. The ladder will have handles. The handles can be used for lots of different things, one of which is we sometimes use them as a little bit of feedback, tactile feedback, to help clients and assist them with stability. And they also can just help provide us with a little bit of guidance for where our body is in space. And in some instances, they help us get a little more stretch into an exercise. Let's take this down now and let's talk about your CoreAlign. So like I said, the rectangle on the inside is your CoreAlign. Right now, I've got this CoreAlign locked into place, and I've got it locked into place with these stopper blocks. These stopper blocks are really important when you put your CoreAlign to bed at night, so that nobody comes into your studio, because you know those elves that come into your studios at night, comes into your studio, jumps on the CoreAlign and thinks, hey, what is this great thing? And whoo, next thing you know, they're off the back end. So that's one really nice use for it. The other nice use for the stopper blocks is, and I'm not sure you can see that there in the camera, but these stopper blocks have a flat edge, and then they have an edge that has a little bit of a little rubber feeding or against that, and also might help them out English there. And what's nice is if I take this stopper block and put it down along the track here, you will notice that my cart then has limited travel. So these can function as range limiters for clients for whom you might be afraid that the full travel on the CoreAlign might just be a bit too much for that exercise. It helps a client stay in control, and it gives them the confidence that they're not going to exceed their capacity. So these are our stopper blocks, and I'm going to take them out and I'm going to put them in the back here. I like to put them in the back there because I am notorious for putting them out alongside me and then walking around because I get really excited and then I end up tripping on them. So do put them away someplace where you're not going to trip on them or your clients are not going to trip on them. Yeah, I tend to date myself, but I always think of myself as the Chevy Chase of instructors. If I can find something to trip over, I manage to do that. So I will limit that for this demonstration. Your CoreAlign has 2 carts that live in 2 distinct tracks. Those carts are on wheels, and those wheels are guided so that the carts are really nice and steady when they're inside of the tracks. A quick origin story. Jonathan Hoffman, who developed the CoreAlign, he developed it because as a physiotherapist, he was trying very, very hard to work on gait mechanics, especially of the lower limb, the ankle, the foot, the knee. And he decided to try using a skateboard with his clients. So he would have clients on a skateboard and he would have them really working on the lower limb. And then he wanted to add resistance. So then he would tie a TheraBand around their ankle, which was great because he could work on resistance from all different angles. And then he decided bands, and you can see you've got potential mayhem. So he realized the skateboards needed to be inside of tracks, and that is the birth of the CoreAlign. So instead of resistance tubing, or I should say TheraBands, what the CoreAlign uses is resistance tubing. So let me say that again. Instead of tying TheraBands around the ankles of your clients, we use resistance tubing on the CoreAlign. Now, I'm going to take this cart, and what I'm going to do is there is a knob. I'm going to pull that knob out and expose the inside of the cart. I'm also going to take the cart out of the track by lifting the inside wheels, the wheels closest to the middle of the CoreAlign, and pulling it out to show you the resistance tubing. Now, with CoreAlign, we have 3 levels of resistance. We have our gray, which is, I had one group call it the dirty avocado, which I thought was a funny name. The gray tubing, which is the heaviest tubing. We have the blue tubing, which I think of as the middle or medium tubing. And then we have the peach tubing, which is the lightest tube. In each cart, you will have 2 of each color. For me, I personally like this orientation of the tubing where I have the heaviest to the center. I have the middle tubing, since I'm going to use that quite a bit, really coming right in between, and the lightest tubing to the farthest end. You can put the tubing in whatever orientation works for you. And the reason why it doesn't really matter too much is if I show you the back end of this cart, I don't know if you can see it, but there are these center wheels. And these center wheels fit inside of a groove inside of your track. So whether or not you have one heavy on the farthest end of your cart doesn't mean the cart is going to get pulled or skewed to one side. It's going to stay right central to that track. So you can place these in whatever way that you and your students and your clients can remember where the tubing is. Now I'm going to put this cart back in. And when I pulled it out, I said you're going to lift the inside wheels and take it out. Now to put it back in, I'm going to go from the outside rail, and I'm going to put those wheels in under the outside rail, and then drop it back in. So it's important that you remember this concept of inside out and outside in, because I promise you, you'll be talking to a client or a friend and you'll be trying to get the cart out, because the way it is organized and situated and designed is so that you just can't pull it out, right? So it's inside wheels out, outside wheels in. And I make no guarantees that even knowing that, you won't have moments of struggling with it. To put the top back on, there is you can't see this on the camera, I'm sure, but there is a little overhang, little metal overhang on the cart. And on the bottom side here of what is the top of your cart, there is a little hook. And what I'm going to do is slide that on, click it into place. So let me show you. Again, here's the bottom side, here's a little stationary hook, and here is their little release. I'm going to call it a gadget because I can't think of the word right this second. So what I will do is slide it on. I'm going to open that release, make sure the cart is clicked on, and then we are good to go. Two more things I should show you here. One is your CoreAlign will come with what are called speed humps or starter blocks. So do you know that when a runner gets ready for their run, they're on those starter blocks before they take off? Well, that's basically what these were originally fashioned for. Or we sometimes, lovingly refer to them as speed humps. These guys are going to sit on top of your cart. On top of your cart, you have two holes. That's what they're for. An interesting thing about these guys is that the pegs don't reside right in the center of them, meaning that if you put them on top of your cart, you have equal space on either side. Instead, they're skewed to one side. They're biased to one side. That's really interesting because then when I put that on, one side of my cart has more space than the other. So if I'm going to stand on these and I want to use these speed humps, by having more space to the front end, I can stand on them and I can position them underneath my foot for whatever exercise I may want to use them for. So you can use these to bias the space either more to the front or more to the back of the cart as necessary for the exercise that you're doing. Okay. And then one last thing I want to show you is your CoreAlign is going to come with pads. Okay, so here's my warning. These are textured and they have the BB logo on them, so you're less likely.
Joy,
Yeah.
can I interrupt for one moment? Going back to the tubing, did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay, thank you. All right, just making sure. Thanks, Joy. You're doing awesome.
All right, so these guys here, these are textured, these are logoed, and these are for comfort. And you have two of them that go over the tops of your carts, and you have one long one that you can use for the standing platform on either end. Just be careful because these also look like packing material when they come because we end up putting them right in the track and it looks like there's something there to stop the carts. Make sure you don't throw them out. You're going to be really grateful for these, especially if you choose to work barefoot, which I'm going to talk about in a second when I get on the CoreAlign. So I'm going to take mine for right now, and I'm going to put them in the center. Okay, so now let's go back to our tubing, and let's get ready and get set up for our first exercise. These carts can be attached to the ladder end. These carts can be attached to the open end. Stay with me. These carts can be attached one to the ladder end, one to the open end. These carts can both reside in the same track attached to each other or attached to the two ends. So I haven't done the math, But this really exponentially opens up the possibilities. Not to mention, we have 2 heavies, 2 mediums, and 2 lights in each cart, which then really changes this math dramatically. So what I'm going to start with is some really basic fundamental use of the CoreAlign, and see if what I could do is show you the potential using the resistance and the carts in different orientation to get the most out of these exercises. So what I will do is I'm going to open up the end, or the ladder end, and there's a little, if you look inside your CoreAlign, you're going to see that there is a little metal clip here. Press that clip down and expose the ladder end of your CoreAlign. Take your carts and bring them to that ladder end, and I'm going to ask you all to put on 2 peach. So you're going to reach down, you're going to find your peach, you're going to put 2 peaches on. So these are 2 light resistances. You're going to hook them, and this is really important. Make sure you don't just shut the lid, but you hear the click when you shut the lid. So I'm going to do that again, because I'm going to not talk when you hear that. You're going to hear when you shut the lid. Now you know that those tubes are securely in there. You're going to get a lot of stretch out of these tubes. If that lid is not securely fastened, it's possible that, you know, maybe one comes loose. We've yet to really have that problem, but I really want to make sure that I bring that to your attention. The other thing I want to say is there will be times, and even today, that we use 1 peach. That's a very light resistance with 1 tube on. Whenever there is 1 tube on, I'm usually extra cautious just to be around my client, or to maybe use a range limiter, just to make sure if something were to happen to that tubing, that I would be there for them. Which brings me to one other thing about the tubing. Check your tubing, for me, preferably daily, and certainly after classes and after some excessive use. When you check your tubing, what you'll want to do is literally take it out, run your fingers along it, because your fingers will tell you if there's any little nicks or any irregularities in the tubing. And then also take a second and stretch the ends. And if you see the ends turning very white, or if you see little crackling in the ends, that's a good time to change your tubing. Since I have this tube out, when your tubing comes, you will have these little cuffs, these little plastic cuffs. These little plastic cuffs you put the tube into the cuff, and that is what is going to lock it in place when it's inside of your cart. Here's something you've got to be careful of. Don't throw those cuffs out when you discard your tube, because these are reusable. And when you change your tubing, you're going to want that cuff, you're going to need it in order for your new tube to be able to do what it needs to do inside of your cart. So remember, the little cuffs you need to keep for safekeeping. Okay. All right, Portia, did that answer questions on the resistance tubing?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much, Joy. You're doing great. Yes, it's looking awesome. I think people are ready to work out. Are you almost there?
I think so. So now listen, guys, we're going to start standing facing the ladder. The orientation of the CoreAlign to the ladder is the front end. The front end of your CoreAlign is going to be pretty much directly underneath your ladder. So I would like for you to organize your CoreAlign that way. Another just sort of quick thing is we will spend some time moving and shifting the CoreAlign and its orientation slightly away from the ladder at times. When we do that, I'm going to ask you to really be conscious of your own body mechanics. I like to pull either away, or if I'm pushing to the CoreAlign, I like my back to the CoreAlign as I pull or push it to the ladder. Okay, so moving on. Let's get on the CoreAlign. Safety getting on the CoreAlign. Always think of it as a boat. This is a boat. This is a dock. Hold on to the dock before you get on the boat. So hand, foot, foot. I am wearing sneakers today. For the exercises we are doing today, you can wear shoes or you can opt not to wear shoes. Personally, having something constricting my feet often makes me feel like something is constricting my brain. I am not sure what the neurological bit of that is. So I usually like not to wear sneakers, but today I am showing it in sneakers so that you can see you can wear sneakers or shoes or something that your client may need. Some clients with neuropathy may have special shoes that they need to use. CoreAlign is great for that. Why the CoreAlign? Well, the first thing is I got two carts. I got two legs. So we're going to start playing with lumbopelvic stability, both by separating the legs and working reciprocal leg motion. And in this case, we're also going to work on postural control. The first exercise is called statue on wheels, and its name is as it implies. And I'm really happy that this camera is coming at me from the side, because the first thing you want to look at is, what is my posture, right? And we all know, ears over shoulders, shoulders over ribs, blah, 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 ribs over pelvis, knees down to the ankle. My hands are going to be on the ladder, roughly shoulder height. And this becomes another good thing for you to know. It's, unless we had a ladder rung, like every couple of centimeters here, where somebody's always going to be in between. For this exercise, I like to default down to the ladder rung if the shoulders are between the ladder rungs. So my hands are roughly shoulder height. My eye gaze is forward, and my posture, and Portia's on the other end there, man. I want you to bark at me if you start to see anything untoward. I'm going to keep my statue posture as I straighten my arms out and then bend my arms to come in. This is a seemingly simple exercise. But as I push out, now I'm talking to you guys, so remember your eye gaze is forward and your hands are both on the ladder, fingers forward on that ladder, even your thumb, please, rested on the ladder rung. But while I talk to you, I'm going to tell you why I like this exercise. Inhale on the hold, exhale as you prepare and you push out. Inhale, come in, and exhale and push out. What's happening with these carts? You've got unstable carts underneath you. Carts want to pull you into the ladder, and your whole back body is just gently resonating to keep you organized as you push out. This is a great postural exercise. Super place to start, especially with our kyphotic forward posture today, in today's day and age. Seemingly simple, because the smallest cheat changes it. Watch my heels. See how my heels are behind my sit bones? Oh, well, this I could do all day long. But guess what I'm not getting? I'm not getting any integration through my core. I really have to get my heels underneath my pelvis and feel the back body pushing me back in space. I have 2 peaches on. For some of you, 2 peaches are going to be too much. You're going to need to take it down to 1 peach. When you put it on 1 peach, now suddenly those carts are really super wobbly. In which case, if you're worried about going too far, too fast, use your stopper block or your range limiter. Okay, number 2 thing I love about CoreAlign, skilled progression. So I got clients, 2 hands, 2 feet, pushing out. This is great. How do I progress the skills here? Well, we're going to make them more unstable. So as I press out and exhale, I'm going to rise up onto the balls of my feet. And then I'm going to come on in by lowering my heels, bending my elbows, and coming all the way home. Now, I'm going to show you a bad version. You're going to press out, woo, and the cart wants to fly away. The whole idea here is core integration. I want to stay integrated as I push out in space, and I want to think of going up, not back. Now I'm on the balls of my feet. I'm a little more unstable on these shaky carts. So what needs to work to keep me integrated and tall? My core, CoreAlign. As I come in, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to start to lower my heels immediately as I bend my elbows and come in. I'm showing you slow version so that you get the movement. Inhale, Exhale, rise up. Inhale, come in. Exhale, rise up. Inhale, come in. You're going up, not back. Now, if you see a slight tilt as you go up, you're over the toes here. I'm okay with a slight tilt as long as you maintain the integration of your line. But what I want you to be careful of is those cards really moving away from you. Okay, so let's do a couple more repetitions. Inhale, exhale, press up. Inhale, use your breath and ride that breath up and then come in. Last one, ride up and then come in. Okay, this is great. Now what if we want to add a little more challenge? What if we want to take this skill building to the next level? Well, everything now has been working as you know, 2 hands, 2 feet. What if we start to separate the legs? So come with me on this journey, ride up, hold it up there, stay as tall as you can. And can you now shuffle? Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Now don't shuffle back. I want you to shuffle as if you're trying to walk forward. Stay lifted, stay connected, keep going. And for some of you, you might be like, woo! And for some, you know, feeling your heart rate going up. And some of you might be feeling one leg working harder than the other. Try to keep your shuffles even and balanced, and you're nice and tall and lifted. And come on in. Okay, do you feel the difference? The minute we start to get the legs to move. I'm realizing I still have my mask, my accessory mask around my neck. I'm gonna throw it off to the side.
Joy, you're making this look so easy.
Hang on, guys.
But it's not. I'm just letting you know it's not.
So, you know, one of the other things that I love about the CoreAlign is it's building skills. I mentioned what I went through in my younger days for a reason. I need a lot of lumbar-pelvic stability and sometimes supine exercises, not to be funny, but with my lower body, don't work so well for me. The CoreAlign works great. So now, if I want to take it one more step, and we're going to go one more step, I got my legs separating, but I still have the stability of my hands. Instability underneath me, stability of my hands. What if I change that by taking one arm off the ladder? So let's try it. Inhale, exhale. First, you got to make sure this works. Then you got to make sure this works. Now I'm going to take for me, it's my left arm, guys. I don't care which arm it is. You're going to do both. And raise it up. Woo! And then bring it down. Raise up the right. And bring it down. Notice my line stays lifted. And I'm going to go for a circle behind me. Notice that's where my glitch was. I'm going to take a circle behind on the right. Not a problem. What happened? I took one hand off. Suddenly now, not only was I organized this way, I had to organize my right arm with my left leg and my left arm with my right leg. And that needed to work in balance. Otherwise, I was going to lose this and spiral in toward the ladder. So again, skill progression. How do you know where to stop? Well, when your client can't manage that skill, that's a note for you as an instructor. I can't quite get them to rise up without leaning forward. This is where I need to spend some time. Okay, good. So that's statue on wheels, where you're nice and straight. The second exercise is called point push, rise up and come on in. The third variation of that is point walking, walk, 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 walk. And then the fourth variation is one limb taking off. Skill progression. Okay, good? Thumbs up? I must confess I took my glasses off, so I can't tell if you're thumbs upping me, so Portia needs to tell me if there's anything.
You're doing good, Joy. This is great. Thank you. I'm recapping in the chat, so they're getting the names and your settings. Great. You're doing great. Thank you.
So I want to take this now to some reciprocal leg and the beginnings of what you can do with your clients with restoring gait patterns or establishing good gait patterns. I think these exercises are some of the exercises that really highlighted the unique value of the CoreAlign for physical therapists, but also for us in our Pilates world on how to bring more people from lying supine up to standing and work on reciprocal leg work. So this exercise starts with, we're going to start with what's called a hoof. Hands are waist height. Again, that posture becomes really important. So hands, we got the head over the shoulders, ribs, pelvis, knees, ankles. And now this time my hands, I'm putting them at my waist level. You guys aren't going to see a whole heck of a lot because I'm going to move from my knee through my ankle and my foot. I'm going to roll through and lift up my heel. And then I'm going to drop my heel and bring it back in. And you should not see a whole heck of a lot because my thighs should stay side by side. What's happening here? If you're a Pilates instructor, I want you to think footwork. And I want you to imagine how I'm rolling through my foot from my heel to my toe. Whole big conversation that can happen right there about the foot itself and the ankle. Now what I want you guys to do, and I'm gonna show you with my hands, I'm feeling this here. As I lift my heel, my back body here has to work to support me. Otherwise, I'm gonna wanna lose it. So I wanna stay nice and lifted and supported, and then I bring the cart in, and it's eccentrically working to support me as I come in. So I start to work on weight transference, lower limb mechanics, bending of the knee, the ankle, the rolling through the foot. And so when I do that, I'm feeling an awful lot in my core. If you were my student, I would say stand behind me, because the one thing you can't see in my little cheat is when I go to my left leg, I really want to woof, go off to the left. I've got to stay connected to my right side. My right side is like 51st date. So every morning I wake up, I got to remind my right side. Okay, so gaze is forward. I took my hands off. I want you guys to try this with your hands off. And hoof, and then come in. And hoof, and then come in. Notice yourself when you're feeling your weight transference. Good. This is called hoof. Why is this called hoof? Because if you were a hoofed animal and you just bent at the knee, you would be showing us the bottom of your hoof. Okay? So that's hoof, nothing happening from the knees up. I want to take us one step farther. This is something that you all could imagine the CoreAlign can do, because it's going to take us into a lunge, and it's a fitness-oriented move. But I think by starting with the hoof, you get some part of the CoreAlign that is tremendously unique. And you add that now to your lunge, and you've got a really dynamic lunge. So this is my left leg. I'm going to hoof, lift the heel. My hands are waist height, my eye gaze is forward, and I'm going to lower down into a 90-90 lunge. And then I'm going to stand up, and the cart is going to come all the way home. I'm going to hoof, that's my right leg. Guys, I'm not really worried about left and right. You're going to do both sides. And I'm going to lower down, 90-90 lunge. Notice my arms go straight out. My torso should be straight over that back leg, and then come on in. And we're going to hoof and come down. Now, what you guys can't see is I'm feeling a tremendous difference right and left side, and you guys might be feeling that for yourselves, a big difference on how the right quad feels as you eccentrically lengthen it versus how the left side feels. This is a lovely dynamic way to work a lunge. You're working both the front leg and you're working the back leg. And the back leg is on that unstable surface that wants to pull in while the front of the quad is lengthening. So do a few more repetitions of that. Lower into your lunge, and then up, and lunge, and up. Okay, now what skills can we add on top of that lunge? Let me just address one more thing about the lunge. I see this quite a bit, is going to all the way to the back. If you do this lunge where you're really truly in touch with the ladder in front of you, bending the front knee to roughly 90 degrees and keeping the back leg directly underneath you. I'm pretty long-limbed. I don't get to the back end. So if you see a client always hitting the back end, recheck the form. 9 times out of 10, the form will put you exactly where you want to be. Last thing I want to show you about the lunge, there's lots to play with here, is how you can add dynamic movement above that lunge. So we're going to do a side bend on the lunge. I'm going to lift my leg closest to the camera. And as I go down, I'm going to raise that arm up and side bend, and then come up and bring my hand to the cart, to the cart home and to the ladder. I'm going to hoof my other leg. I'm going to come down and I'm going to side bend and then come up. What makes this particularly challenging is as I go down, it's easy for me to want to wiggle my way out of this, and I've got to stay nice and stable in my low body as I side bend. So again, if you were my student, I would say stand behind. And what do you see with the pelvis? Is it level? Or are they compensating? And the great thing about the CoreAlign as an instructor is when you see the lines break, that's a clear indication that that's the limit or the end range of that skill for that client. And you've got to work in and around that to build the skill set. Okay. Hoof into lunging. Last thing facing the ladder, because I do want to show you a few things off the back end, is leaning ski jump. I'm showing you some real highlights here. These are basic principles from CoreAlign 1. These are foundational moves. For leaning ski jump, I'm going back to finding my upright posture. My hands are on the ladder. My forearm is going to lean against the ladder. And now this time, I'm going to stay connected through the forearms and the ladder, pivot at my shoulders as I lean my body away from the ladder. And then I'm going to come back up. I'm going to show you that again. Hands on the ladder. My thumbs are on top of that ladder rung. Forearms leaning into that ladder. The pivot point is my shoulder. I'm going to maintain my posture. As I lean forward, I'm on my toes. So yeah, my heels are coming off because I'm leaning toward my toes. And I am reaching as far back as I can, maintaining my posture. Core align. One more time. Lean and reach. And really give me a lot of reach through those legs. And then come back in and up. Leaning ski jump. These are go-to exercises for every client, almost every session. Statue and all of its offshoots, hoof into lunge, leaning ski jump. Let me take you now with the 15 or so minutes that I have left, and let's move us around here to see different uses of the CoreAlign and the resistance. One use is to reverse our resistance. Now I have here a gondola pole, and I'm going to put it here just in case I want it for additional stability. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn myself around so that I'm facing my back to the ladder. I pushed my cart in pretty close. I want to give myself a little breathing room. I'm going to pull the unit out just a little bit. And I'm going to step up on these carts facing the other way. For many clients, this is a danger moment. Hold on to the ladder. You can put one foot on the stationary platform and then turn yourself around so that you're facing away from the ladder. Here I have handles. I have preset my handles so that they are roughly the length of my arms. I can use the handles as I get better with my balance. I can let go of the handles, or I can use assistance, which I will show you in a second. I'm going to take our hoof, and I'm going to do the same thing, but reverse. Now, instead of hoofing into, or hoofing my back body into that resistance, I'm actually pushing off. You'll notice my hoofing leg, that cart is not the cart that's moving. The cart that's moving is the one that I'm standing over and then coming in. So this is the push-off phase of gait. Again, I'm rolling through my foot, think footwork, and I'm feeling weight challenges or balance challenges side to side. These can be helpful. They can also be a hindrance if some clients are really gripping them or they pull themselves back. Some things that are helpful here are either a chair, a ballet bar, even just your handy dandy gondola pole can be just a little lovely assistance. And certainly when we are able to be in person again, just being there for your client to give them a little gentle support and feedback is really helpful here. As clients get sufficient in balance and control, you can then take this and you can lower this into a lunge. And that control coming back is every bit as important as the control going out. Okay, so we take the same principles, hoof and lunge, but now we've reversed them. I'm stepping off. Carefully, of course. I'm going to come over here to the side of the CoreAlign, and we're going to play with changing these carts and using different orientations of these carts. I'm going to reach down, unhook the front. I'm going to send one cart to the back, and I will put one peach on the back and one peach on the front. I want to take a second and show you something that is very unique to the CoreAlign. And honestly, when I saw this, this was the one that made me go, oh yeah. Okay, just take a second. I'm going to put my foot on the front cart. It's stationary. And I'm going to bring it to the back. And then I'm going to stand up and bring my legs together. I will hold on to my handles, but I don't really need them. And what's happening is the cart closest to you wants to pull me back. The cart closest to the wall wants to bring my right leg forward. And what am I doing? I am stabilizing against those oppositional poles. And I'm just going to move. And my hips, I feel this in my hips. One side is easy, I could do it for days. And the other side, quite frankly, gets cranky with me. If you have a client with SI joint issues, please be very careful with this, as it can lead to instability. It can also be very helpful. Just standing in this position provides a feedback into the pelvis, a torsion into the pelvis that I am working against. It's really a lovely way also to find balance. Okay, so I'm going to come out of this. What I'm going to do is the cart that wants to come forward, I'm going to let it come forward, and the cart that wants to go back, I'm going to let it go back. I stand inside the well and then step out. I'm not going to show you the other side, but I am going to tell you, you cannot do the other side just by turning around. You've got to swap the carts. The cart that's in the back has to go front. The cart in the front has to go back. For the next thing that we're going to do is I can actually send these carts to the back. I'm going to put a peach on the back. And we're going to go to the rodeo. So I'm going to step in, face my ladder. But wait a minute, my carts are back there. So I'm going to take my left leg or the leg closest to you, take that cart, push it home, and put my body weight forward into the ladder. I'm going to take the other cart, bring it home, and then guess what? I'm going to stand up. Carts want to pull me to the back end, but now what's happening is my front end has to work to support me from going back. This instance, I'm going to sit down into a little bit of a squat. And then I'm going to shuffle. And I'm going to keep my pelvis nice and stable if I can. And I'm going to shuffle. And you know what? My quads are really starting to burn. And I'm going to shuffle. And if you want to get some cardio, man, you can really work this with your clients. The other thing you can do is you can start to bounce this. Okay, and then, this is my favorite. You're going to start to bounce. You're going to take one arm up. You're going to circle around. And you're going to say, yee-haw! Come on, everybody. Yee-haw! We used to call that rodeo. It's one of my favorites because actually bouncing is one of the most important skills that children start very young when they're in their crib. First thing they do when they stand is they bounce, they bounce, they bounce, they bounce. And as adults, we don't do enough of it. But I'm telling you, if you're sitting there and you don't have a CoreAlign, start bouncing right now. because it's so much fun.
Joy, that was so much fun to watch you do that.
Are you bouncing? Are you bouncing?
I'm bouncing. You can't see me, but I'm bouncing.
Super. Listen, let me just show you one thing while I'm standing here. We did stretch home wheels, we did hoof, we did lunge. You can do this with the reverse resistance. Just hoofing with that resistance from the back, it's a completely different challenge. I've got to stop my body from being pulled back. I've got to stay up and lifted through my front. I feel my quads. I feel my core. I can take that into a lunge. And I can even take that into my stretch home wheels. Caution here, unless I would not, especially with clients who are new to the CoreAlign, do the point push and the point walking, resistance from behind, unless I had every confidence in the world that clients were comfortable and strong enough to do that. Okay, so that's a lot of standing. Let's take it down now, and we have just a few minutes, and let me show you some ways to rev up your workout and to cool down your workout. In our Pilates land, one of our very, very, very favorite exercises, mermaid. So I'm going to sit here. Now, as I sit here, how many clients are going to be comfortable on the floor like this? Not everybody. So certainly you can change, I'm taking the plant with me, you can change their sitting to here, to the legs straight out front. You can sit them up on a box. You can sit them with a fox, just kidding. And you can also put them right up on the edge of the CoreAlign, where this leg then has the freedom to just drape off to the side. I like to have my hip in line with the cart, in this case, closest to the wall. I'm going to take up my opposite arm and just a simple side bend and then come up. I actually like to add the cervical piece. I like to look at my hand and then come up. Some of the nice things that you can do here on the CoreAlign with your mermaid is we can play with the rib cage. You can seaweed. And I'm using my hand to exaggerate my rib cage. You can seaweed. How yummy is that? We can also add a rotation. If I take my hand, put it on the cart closest to you, and I can take it out. And I'm going to curl in, and I'm going to go out and extend to return. So I'm going to take it forward, curl back. I'm going to dive down and extend to return. So you have some really lovely options here with our traditional mermaid. Another favorite here to either, like I said, rev up or to cool down would be our version of cat. And I say our version because there's many, many different ways in which to do cat, cow. I've had this conversation with Nora and Portia all the time, never sure which is the cat, never sure which is the cow. So I'm just going to call it generically cat. Now,
And Joy, you can also let them know that they can use the pad under the knees if they'd like.
I was honestly just getting there. Thank you for reminding me. So
not a problem.
Not to use the pads, but here is an excellent opportunity to put the pad on the standing platform and on the hands. And let me just do that to show you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Portia. Okay. And here, when I get onto my knees and all fours, notice that the carts move away. So I've got now resistance wanting to pull in. I had a peach on, I added a second peach. I like to work my spine against the resistance. I do not have a lot of lumbar flexibility, and that resistance really helps me. And then I lengthen my spine, and as I come into extension, the carts come slightly in front of me. I'm going to inhale, exhale, as I scoop my belly in and round my back,
The carts are moving in reaction to my spine, not my arms. And then as I lengthen my spine, I'm going to go into extension, which is going to take my arms slightly in front of me. Inhale, on the exhale, you're going to curl. You're going to drag all the way in. And then lengthen. And then reach in front. So this is a really lovely way of working on spinal mobility. I can also play with one arm leading. Right? And then curl and come all the way in. This also takes me to all sorts of all fours work. I can keep my arms stable, right? And play with my leg, or play with my leg and one arm. So from this position, we have so much available to us in all fours. Okay, it looks like I'm coming pretty close to the end, and you'll notice I didn't do the other side of your mermaid. You are in charge of doing the other side of your mermaid. What I'd like to do here is just have you put your hands on the carts, send yourself out, and then pull yourself up, grounding your feet. Take a second here, inhale, exhale, send yourself out. And here, even if you want to give me a little extension, you can. From your belly, you're going to pull yourself in. Lift up by pulling your sits bones back over your heels, dragging the carts in. One more time, we're going to go out. Find your plank first. Find your nice neutral. Good. Really reach through your legs. Lengthen out through the crown of your head. And let's bring you back. So now you see all the planking opportunities that are available to you. Ground your feet. Hang there for a second. You can even just sway a little left and right. Bend your knees, hug behind your knees, and then start to roll up. Standing up nice and tall, arms open out to the side. Big inhale. Bring your hands together up and over you, and pull all of that good energy down and in through your center. So when I look at my notes, there's a lot more I wanted to cover with you guys. And that's because there's a lot more available on this CoreAlign. This is a hint, a taste, a beginning. These are the things that when I saw the CoreAlign, I looked at it and I said, that is for my clients and that is for me. So I hope this gives you a good feel for the CoreAlign. It gives you some basic information. For those of you, and I know you're out there because I saw you sign up, who already have the basic information, I hope it infuses you with the enthusiasm again for the CoreAlign, and it gives you just some gentle cueing or some things to look at that might help you get the most from your client. With that, I want to thank you for joining us for these in-services. This will be available for you anywhere from the next 24 to 72 hours to review. We will follow up with any links that you may have put in the chat. I am Joy Puleo here from Balanced Body in Sacramento. Fortunate enough to be around. Nora is here, Ken is here, Al is here, a whole cadre of people who are here for you. And I want to thank you in this crazy time for not only virtually being with me, but allowing me to come and be with you. So I thank you and looking forward to seeing all of you in person again.
Joy, that was awesome. Thank you so much. You know, I didn't get a chance to really fully introduce you, but Joy is our education program manager, and she is just an absolute delight to work with. And like she said, an excellent resources amongst the others that she mentioned. And just to let you know that she will be doing another CoreAlign in-service. This one will be on November 10th at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And next week, you're with me, and I've got the motor on the 20th in service. So hope to see you guys again. These are really fantastic ways to get introduced to new products that you might have just purchased, or maybe you've had lying around, and now you can put them to good use.
Hey, one other thing I want to say is the next time we do the CoreAlign, what I'm going to focus on the exercise piece is we're going to focus specifically on gait mechanics. So just keep that in mind if, in fact, you want to join us a second time. The beginning material will be the same, but the back material is going to focus more specifically on gait mechanics. This was an overview.
Right, and she will make it a little different each time. These are going to keep coming at you guys, so be on the lookout for news of what we have coming up. Lots of exciting things for you, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. I also typed in the chat a workshop that I'm doing this weekend with the lovely Lisbeth Garcia here in San Diego. It is a virtual event on the CoreAlign to give you some progressions and conditioning exercises. Hope to see you there.
All right. Thank you, Portia. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.